colors have their own, it's another world. And the beauty of colors is that it can evoke emotion differently to me than it would to you. And when it has to do something, it has something to do with rugs or carpets or like certain fabrics and furnishings, upholsteries. I can almost guarantee you 90% of them are getting it made in India. Luxury at the end of the day is having your needs sorted. Your needs are there, you're done, you're good.
And then I used to see you eating Maggie every day. Like, you had Maggie in your lunchbox every day. And for me, that was like, girl, she has to be my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest designs luxury yachts. She started her journey as an architect from Mumbai, went on to designing some of the most luxurious properties in Tanzania, to today leading the design team for an Italian company that designs luxury yachts. Her journey has been filled with a lot of learning, global perspective, and excitement. In this conversation, we talk about interior design, we talk about energies, we talk about how our internal harmony can be extended to create harmony in the spaces around us. And so if you are a student of interior design, or you are simply just figuring out how to design your own home, then this is a podcast that you must absolutely watch. Watch to the very end. Tell us what you loved about this conversation and what you took away from it. Put it in the comments below, and until then, enjoy the show. See you soon. Hey Disha, welcome to the Out of Office show. And I am so excited because, I'm meeting you and talking to you after so long.
It's been a minute.
It's been a while, and you've done so many cool things. And you become an architect, you design yachts today, luxury yachts today. And, I know there are so many people in the world today who are like, what are yachts? How do you design? What happens? And I want to go and dive deep into that.
Right in. Let's dive right in.
Yes, but we'll go slowly. But most interesting, apart from all of this, is that we studied in school in Bombay Scottish in Mumbai. You did your architecture there, and then now you're in Italy, and you're married to an Italian, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm Italian, and I do want to explore a little bit, more about Indians and Indian culture versus Italian culture. What are the similarities? What are the differences? And get to know more. You ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay. So first, well, thank you for joining the show.
I'm so excited, Priya. I mean, we can call each other like chuddy buddies, I think, at this
I know.
point. Like,
Yes.
we've grown up seeing youth. Not to say that we're old right now, but we've grown up at a time where life was so different than what it is now. And I'm just, before we start and like make this all about me, I just want to say that this is amazing what you're doing, and the accomplishments that you have. It's I think we're gonna have to do another call where you're the one who's talking and I'm the one who's asking the questions, because I want to know so much more about you. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited. Let's do it.
All right. So Disha, let's start all the way from the beginning, your journey. So why did you take architecture? Because you're an architect, right? And why did you get to that? What was your story there?
So I've always been really fascinated by how spaces could like form experiences. Growing up in India, because I've always moved from one city to the other in India. And growing up, you're always surrounded by so much contrast when it comes to tradition or modernity in India, because we have them both, or chaos and order. For me, it was very interesting where that particular thing about India kind of sparked a curiosity in me, wanting to know how design could bring in harmony and not contrast or chaos. So that's where I felt like architecture was kind of a natural calling to me.
Right.
It was much later when I started working in Tanzania, my time there working closely with my clients, that I felt like the world of interior is just so expressive. And it really has so much to do with transforming the way people live. And I just knew immediately that I had to explore this more and I had to know more about it. And so, yeah, I just, that brought me to it.
Okay.
Just a very short explanation.
Nice. So let's go a little bit deeper in this. So you said that design and spaces excited you, and I'm just reframing or paraphrasing what you've said. And you thought that through design and spaces, one could express themselves, their creativity, I guess. And so that is what excited you, right, to pursue this field. Was this so? Was this is this very true today as well? Like as you work on different projects, what do you bring in these projects when it comes to design and architecture?
So, a lot of designing involves having a constant state of energy that brings harmony to the space that you design.
Okay.
At least when I bring in my designs and when I am designing, I try to create an emotional intelligence, not necessarily just an aesthetical one. Because an emotional intelligence can really create energy, and the energy of any space that you're designing has to be one that is harmonious to someone's lifestyle.
Hmm.
And if you can't get that right, I mean, what are you even doing?
Okay. So emotional, this part, right? How does that influence design? And you said that it somehow creates or influences the energy in a space. So tell me a little bit more about this, because in my head, and I'm just coming from a very creative builder engineering point of view where you build things, right? But I've always had the sense that while there is the functional and the structural element of things, there is the aesthetic part of things that completely change the way something is experienced, right? So tell me more about this. How does the emotional element create good experiences? Go deeper into this, maybe give examples.
When I talk about emotional element, I don't necessarily mean it as an emotion, but more as a form of energy that you bring in. We as humans are naturally wired to pick up cues on non-verbal energies. Sometimes when we're around people, some people can feel a jolt of energy, and some people can just completely feel drained being around someone.
Correct.
The same way, I think a space really speaks about energy.
Okay.
Take, for example, a space that you've designed with a very low ceiling, with no lighting coming through, and super cramped space and super cluttered. A person walking in with full of energy and like positivity and everything, walking into that space is going to immediately feel a drop in energy, right? So it's not something I can logically explain, but that's what we in layman terms call energy. I really feel like designing a space when it comes to an emotional intelligence doesn't always mean, okay, this is a space and then it looks really pretty if I put like this trendy furniture here. But if it does not speak with the emotional intelligence of the space, what it really requires. Because as a person, you have an emotion. You have to tap into your emotions of what you need today. What do I need today? Why don't we do the same thing with the space? Yeah. When I have four walls and I know what it needs, what it doesn't need, how can I just put in a furniture that is trendy on Instagram or trendy on Pinterest, but not really what the house really needs? So that's the emotion that you have to tap into when you're working with a person or when you're working with a house or like a space.
Okay, beautiful. Next question, because I'm getting really curious about this. How do you know what kind of energies or emotions a space should have? Let's say, for example, you have decided to buy a house, right? And yeah, what should you and for some weird reason you things have worked out and you've already made that purchase. And yeah, so now starting from there, how would you you as Disha go and look at that space, and what would you say or do? Yeah.
So
You can ask
speaking
me questions on what the space is like.
of Disha, or speaking just as a person who has just invested in a property, I would say take it slow. When you design a space, it's very important to have everything designed in harmony. Whether it is you hiring an interior designer or you doing it by yourself, it has to be something that you will never be sure of the design. You will never be sure of the furniture piece that you've chosen. But what I would say is that really go back to the basics and really know what exactly it is that you're looking for in your house, what your lifestyle supports.
Right.
You could have a really huge property or you could have a studio apartment and want to have the lifestyle that a house of a millionaire might have. But does that really suit the space? You can create a millionaire lifestyle in a more chic and a studio living kind of way without necessarily using the aesthetics that $1 million house would potentially have, you know? So
Nice.
when you're going into developing, doing an interior design of a space, interior design is so vast. We have so many interesting materials out there, like marble can be replaced by grass, ceramics. You don't necessarily need to invest in something that expensive, but still make your house look classy and chic and what you would potentially want to do and dream of if you have $1 million house. So yeah, I would say that go slow, know your basics, know your lifestyle, and design your space as per your emotional lifestyle.
Okay, so let's take me as a case study here. Okay, and then you walk me through what to do. So in general, when it comes to homes, I usually tend to rent or take a place which is purely bare, except for whatever small furniture that could come with it, like maybe a dining table. I mean, in Singapore, it depends on whether it's furnished or not furnished, and there is this thing called semi-furnished, which has like white goods and stuff. But okay, painting that picture now, in terms of what I like in the house, is there a house or the home should be a place where you come back and you relax. So your energies in the space should be very calm. And it shouldn't be bright. It shouldn't be that in your face kind of a house, especially in the evenings when you're going to go sleep. During the day, I do like a lot of light coming into the house to make it like a day. Basically, I do not like dark spaces. And then the last element is that both me and Sandeep are very social people. So we do enjoy a good game night or a biryani night that we often host with our friends. Yeah, and that kind of makes our space the way it is. Of course, there has to be functional stuff, like there needs to be a workspace. There's also a studio now that I have, which I work in a very small space with. But I move around the furniture a little bit to create the studio for out of office show. And then there is the usual kitchen. You want to be able to cook. Both of you want to be able to cook together. And then there is, of course, the usual drying spaces and storage spaces. Yeah, so I told you whatever I want in my house.
So this is what you want in your house.
It's what I have as well, but I want
You
you
have it right, exactly. These are like the basic necessities of the house. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I need to, let's say, get to a stage where I want to design it and make it do all of this. So what are some of the steps that I should take? But also, what can I do or what mistakes I can make that will actually mess it up to that level that it doesn't really align myself from that goals? Like certain tips, design tips maybe, or whatever.
So the thing is, when you're designing your space, you already have a checklist of things that you want.
Yeah.
And then you have a checklist of things that you need.
Okay.
Now,
Give
the
me example.
priority here comes as to whether you want to prioritize your wants over your needs or your needs over your wants.
Okay.
Say personally that when you're starting out, always make sure that your needs are taken care of first.
Okay.
Because wants are something additional. Needs are the needs of life that you need in order to live a harmonious life, in order to live a comfortable life.
Okay. So
So-
my needs could be something, let's say, like, correct me if I'm wrong. It could be something like I do want ample drying space, storage space, workspace, studio, and
Absolutely.
these are
So
like needs.
you should always tap into first your immediate needs, because if you have a business and you're running a business and you need a space for that business, you can be sitting on your sofa and working as well. But then if your business needs for you to have a certain space, if your business needs for you to have an enclosed space that does not require a lot of lighting. Let's say you're a videographer or you're like a photographer who needs a red room in the house, and you absolutely need that. Then that is your need, because that is what is running your bills. Yeah.
Mm.
As opposed to, I want to have a bar
Mm.
in my house right now because I want to have friends over for biryani, and that's just going to be like a status symbol. So that is not wrong as well. That's not at all wrong. But always tap into the needs first, and then you can get into the wants, because the wants is something that is more creative. Wants is something that gets a flair in the house. So when you have the basics already set, when you have the foundation ready, you can always play around with these particular things, your wants.
You said that a space should be harmonious to these energies that you're looking to experience right there. How do you make a space harmonious?
Harmony is what's happening on the inside of yourself. Your harmony is very different from my harmony. Yeah, we tap into different kind of levels of energies when we're even sitting and talking, the two of us. You would typically know what you feel harmonious to, what you're more attracted towards. You would typically know what you do not like. Every time I always suggest anybody, family, friends, clients, is that never go with what's trending on social media, because that is just a very aesthetic image of something that is not always real, but it's always very aesthetically pleasing, because that's the selling point. You may end up buying those things in your house and then feel completely disassociated with it and feeling not at all like it's yourself. Always be true to yourself. Always be true to what you like as a person. If the trends are saying that paint the wall red, like a deep maroon,
Right.
and that's not your personal liking, that is not something that you would love entering your home into a nice deep red wall, don't do it. If you're more of an aesthetical person in a sense of beige, for example, but then the media is saying that beige is so boring, beige is so outdated, there's nothing in beige.
Yeah.
Who cares? Do beige, because that's what, it's your home at the end of the day. When you're designing for a public space, then you have to cater to a different array of expectations of how many people are stepping into your space who want to see different diverse spaces and colors and things like that. But when you're coming into your own house, it's essentially what you want, what your partner wants. So always tap into what you want and be true to yourself rather than copy what's going on
What is going on, right?
in Kim Kardashian's house.
No, yeah, okay, absolutely. No, that makes sense. But how does one know what colors work for me? Like here you mentioned about beige being your color and red not being your color. So do you just go with your favorite color? Is that the way you do, or how?
This is a very tricky question for an interior designer, especially someone who has a very strong preference towards a certain style of living. Well, at the end of the day, it is your house and it's what you enjoy. As an interior designer, it puts me in a very difficult position to tell you that, okay, if yellow is your color, go paint the ceiling yellow. Yeah. So I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I also don't want to tell you that don't follow your passion.
Okay.
Yellow is your color, for example. There are so many beautiful ways that you can put in the color without having to really make the space look gaudy. There are so many beautiful ways that you can add accents of that color to make the space harmonious to your personal taste.
Right.
So if you don't know anything about interior design, if you don't know anything about doing up your space, and you don't have a budget to hire an interior designer, start with the basics. Go super neutral. Go super neutral. Go with whites. Go with beige. Yeah.
Okay.
Put in a texture in a wall. Don't put in a texture in the wall. But then your personal taste comes in art pieces. You have wall art that really expresses your design style. You
Right.
have cushions and throw pillows and rugs that can have pop of colors. You can invest in an armchair that would be a yellow, beautiful yellow, or let's say red armchair. So you add pop of color, which like invites people in as a neutral base. So you know you're welcoming everybody as a standard neutral base. And
Right.
then you still bringing in your individuality
Elements
in your
to it.
space through things that are interchangeable, might I add. Because you may love red now, you may not love red in 10 years. You may not love red in the next month. So that's something that you can always change up without having to spend like a fortune.
Nice, nice. So, what kind of emotions usually colors like beige and stuff evoke? You said they're neutral and they're welcoming and they welcome a lot of people.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are the emotions that come from it?
That depends on the person. To me, specifically, if you talk about colors, colors have their own, it's like, it's another world. And the beauty of colors is that it can evoke emotion differently to me than it would to you. For
Right.
example, if I would walk into a space where the wall is done in blue, I personally would not feel super energetic.
Right.
But someone else might feel extremely calm and extremely like focused, because blue
Right.
essentially is a color of calm and focus and nature,
Trust and
because it's
stuff.
water. But then again, it's so subjective because everybody really has their own emotional to what colors mean to them. When I talk about being neutral, like beige, that is a color that cannot go wrong in my books.
Yeah.
Because that's a color that really brings in a wide possibilities. Like you cannot go wrong with it, because like I mentioned some time back, you can always amp it up with pop of color somewhere. But I don't see how one could amp up like a red wall and then put an accent of beige, because you're
Right.
like directly throwing in something and then you're trying to neutralize it. You would
Okay.
rather neutralize it and then throw like a pop of
Something.
color. But again,
Okay.
this I could be wrong as well. I mean, there are a lot of people who might think differently than me, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, speaking about people thinking differently, I think the creative world is too filled with different opinions.
So
Yeah, tell me more about this. What was your experience growing up, studying this space?
very interestingly, I would have to say, so right after I finished my bachelor's in architecture from Mumbai,
Yeah.
I got an internship in Tanzania
Okay.
back in 2015. And that's where I really had the opportunity to explore working for the very first time. And get this, like a girl from India, just out of her bachelor's with absolutely no experience whatsoever. Because as much as we may want to believe that we learn a lot from school, we actually learn a lot when you're working. So I would say I had zero experience. And when I went there as an intern, I was essentially working. I had the opportunity to work on projects that people with maybe 5 years of experience get the opportunity to work on. So I'm like super grateful for that. While I was working there, I worked on some of the, what I can say today, some of the biggest and the most luxurious large scale architectural projects that East Africa has seen.
Okay. Wow.
While working on that, I had few clients request interior design work to be done in the property that they bought, like in the architectural spaces that they bought. To me was the epitome of luxury, the designs that I worked on there.
Wow.
Cut to coming to Italy, and I remember going in for an interview when I was still a student in Italy, and I wasn't necessarily looking for an opportunity at the time because I was still studying. I was just looking to understand more, understand the culture, understand the expectations of what I should be expecting at the end of my master's. And I was shocked to know that my portfolio of works that had some of the most amazing, luxurious projects wasn't really considered luxury in Italy.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that made me realize so many things. For
Okay.
example, luxury in, let's say, India or let's say Tanzania would be something, just painting a picture here, okay? Using a lot of marble,
Okay. I'm
using
imagining. Yeah.
golds, just something that is just out there. You can see, you see luxury.
Yeah.
In Italy, for that matter, luxury is as minimal as it can be. Using the most understated materials, using the most subtle finishes, something that doesn't hit your face, but you know it's luxury. Having said that, I have been to so many houses in Milan itself, Milan being the design capital, where people back in the day, Italy is known to have the highest population of old people.
Okay.
Because we didn't really know how to live life here. They have houses with orange walls, red walls, and green walls all in the same house.
Okay.
So design really does differ person to person. You also have aristocrats, like a lot of them here in Milan, who have these super historical properties and houses in the city center, which would cost millions and millions if you have to go buy and invest in right now, who are young, who have generations of backing of old money, but still don't see design as the new Milan luxury. They would still go back to like a colored wall and some really, what we say jhatak, and what we say super like in the face luxury.
Right.
So luxury is different. Design is different. Like you can be like the most amazing successful designer in one part of the world, but you don't know what's happening on the other side of the world. So that way I think like a global experience is something that any and every design student or somebody young in this career should really explore and try to get their hands on, because it really opens your eyes to the various possibilities of what design is. Design could be so many things. It's like the most beautiful thing, I think right now. Yeah.
Amazing. That's very interesting. It reminds me a bit about just drawing parallelism to the cultures that we have in India, where in some parts of India, the extravagance is definitely seen as luxury. And in some parts of India, there is so much simplicity that only accents, let's say jewelry or whatever it is shown as or seen as luxury. And it's very similar to this and to what you're saying. And I guess it's also all about people, whether they have been acquired wealth versus people who have been born in wealth. Two different perspectives. And I believe that also drives the kind of houses you will see or the places that you live.
Absolutely. Very beautifully put.
Okay. Nice. All right. A couple of things that I wanted to also go deeper into, which you said was very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about global experiences. So you were saying that, every designer should have a global experience, and you've worked in East Africa, and you've also seen Italy, and you've seen Milan specifically. So tell me a little bit about your experiences, not just from a design perspective, but also from a cultural perspective in these countries versus Mumbai, which I think is very cosmopolitan, by the way. But yeah.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, to be honest, Italy and India, let's say Italy and India right now,
Yeah.
they are so familiar in terms of being expressive. They are extremely expressive countries, both India and Italy. They both hold a lot of value on culture, food, and family. And that is something that I super connect with.
Right.
Here, apart from the language, I don't really feel like I'm not living close to home, because there's so much of that culture here as well. Now, this might be you may think I'm reversing roles here, but the kind of adaptability and a sense of assertive progress that we see in India. As much as we have that in India, you have Italy being completely deep rooted in tradition and craftsmanship. Now you see what I just did there.
Yeah.
You would consider Italy being like the super progressive, developing, adaptive country, and India being like deeply rooted in tradition and craftsmanship, which we are. But when you really when you really live in these two places, you realize how the roles are actually reversed. Like Italy is so deeply rooted in tradition. It's so deeply rooted in craftsmanship. It's all what it's about.
Yeah.
India, on the other hand, is so progressive. It is just so adaptive. We adapt like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really beautiful how you break through the stereotypes of when you're living in India. I would just say, oh, we're so traditional and we're so culture oriented. We're so into craftsmanship and arts and stuff like that. But then when you come to a different country and you see, oh my God, these guys are doing it way better, or maybe not better, but in so much more different way.
Mm.
It's really interesting. And then you go back to your country and then you realize that, oh, I was assuming Italy is going to be more progressive, Italy is going to be more adaptive, but actually India is. And that just makes you realize that, wow, like life is so much more than what you are when you're like living in a certain place. So it's
Yeah.
very important to travel a lot. I think it's so important.
Yeah. Very interesting that you say this because the perception of the world today, right now, or the way India has been positioned, if you see, is very tech heavy, very Bollywood heavy, and you have stories coming out of India and you have music, dance. I'm so glad that we moved away from the snake charmer vision of India to something like this, right?
Yeah, I'm still trying. I almost feel like it's my mission in Italy to change the perspective of what people see India as. And I am going to do that till the very last breath. I'm
Right.
going to make people see India for what it truly is. It's not just cows.
It is not. And unfortunately, it is not. And I want to say unfortunately here because, okay, so today there are Indian tech CEOs and Indians who are not Indians, but in America who is doing a lot of things in tech. So that's, I feel like that's the perception. Even in Singapore, it's like, okay, you're Indian. Oh, then you must know IT. Or you must know tech. Like this is in your blood. And I do say that it's in my blood because it is. It comes naturally to me. But yeah, but that's, I feel like that's a perception, which is good. On the side of Italy, the perception that we see here in Singapore, at least, and I don't know about India as much, but I think it's might be similar, is that Europe, which means Italy is in Europe, right? Everything that you
We're
perceive
covering
about,
geography today.
so whatever you perceive about Europe, you think about Italy. Like, for example, if you think about fast cars, you think about German make, but because it's German make, you would think it's also Italy. But at the
Ferrari.
same time, you think about pizza. Yeah, Ferrari, you think about F1, you think about Italy, you think about pizza. I think that's the first thing that comes to my mind also when I think about Italy. And now more so because I am exploring a lot of sartorial lifestyle. Actually, Sandeep is exploring a lot of sartorial lifestyles and the kind of clothes that he can wear. So now that is completely changing the way Milan and Italy are coming to my face, right? Like it's a lot more design. It's a lot more focus on craftsmanship, all to the very detailed thread work, the cuts, the everything. And I feel like this is there in India, but it's now not the perception of the people, even of Indians living in India. This is like karigari, or this is just like somebody is going to be doing that. It's not the high tech paying job that I could have. So I feel like it's very underappreciated, but India also has so much of it inside that it's
If
not.
I can say something to this, Italy is definitely, it's like, it's the place for fashion.
Yeah.
It's where everybody wants to be when it comes to fashion, when it
Yeah.
comes to design. And Made in Italy has become such a beautiful brand and such a strong brand that, like you said, we do have Made in India as well, but it's just not promoted as much, which I feel like it is happening now. We're getting there.
Mm.
But it's so funny, and I can almost bet my life on this, that when I meet when I meet suppliers, and when it has to do something, it has something to do with rugs or carpets or like certain fabrics and furnishings, upholsteries, I can almost guarantee you 90% of them are getting it made in India with an Italian name.
Okay.
Or maybe not an Italian name,
Right.
but that goes a lot to say that not just us, but also, let's say, globally, people are recognizing, not just because the cost of work is cheaper, cost of labor is cheaper in India. I don't believe that is the only reason, but also I feel very strongly that the craftsmanship that we have since centuries,
Yeah.
it's just something so beautiful. And the techniques that we use, like just hand looming things, it's just, it's stunning. And we are an inspiration to so many nations that way.
Yeah.
That we have people going all the way to India, not just for low cost labor, but for the skills and the talent. So yeah, I was very recently pleasantly surprised when I came across a supplier who was doing beautiful fabrics and beautiful rugs. And then I was so happy and proud to know that it was all handcrafted in India.
Wow.
That's amazing. So I think we're getting there. We just need to do better marketing.
Right?
We have one of the best craftsmanship.
I think probably what we need to do is, so there is a lot of fashion, like Bollywood is all about fashion glamour, a lot of it. But I feel like there should be like a really famous fashion brand that comes out of India that is not just, it's not fast fashion or, like something where it's a lot more, maybe there are some like British India. I see some brands here, but then yeah, something that really makes a big name.
Yeah.
Like,
I think Isha Ambani is working on that. I think so.
right. I think that would be fantastic. Okay, so speaking about fashion, let's move to the next interesting conversation, which is yachts. Now, all this that we spoke about, emotions and design and harmony and energies in spaces, how does that translate to when you are designing yachts? And luxury yachts in Milan. So let's add the luxury part to it.
I would only imagine yachts are luxurious. I mean, I don't know how else it would be. But speaking of emotions, did you say emotions?
Yeah. Emotions, energy, harmony, everything.
Emotions and harmony. So when I said that before in terms of a generic interior design concept, it would be applicable to any and every possible field of design.
Yeah.
Whether you're designing an architectural space or you're designing an interior design house, commercial space, retail, yacht, whatever it may be.
Okay.
When it comes specifically to yachting, yachting is such a niche market, but at the same time, it is so global and fast paced that you always have to innovate. You always have to see what's happening in the market because there's always somebody who's outdoing you in terms of technology. Typically, for yacht is going to be a super high net worth person. Yeah.
Right.
So imagine a high net worth person not knowing a lot about technology. It doesn't really balance out there. So I think one has to be super quick on their feet, but not just in yachting, actually in general when it comes to designing a space. When it comes to harmony, yacht is a very specific kind of living. It offers a very specific lifestyle. Just imagine living on water.
Okay.
It's like a house on water.
Right.
Whatever size it may be a super yacht, it may be like a super small yacht, it may be a passenger ferry. We're talking just a house on yacht. Speaking of harmony and harmonizing a house on the sea, which is the most natural resources that we have in this freaking planet, the water, the sea, I would assume harmony would just be. But you can ruin a beautiful yacht, a beautiful length of a yacht by just making it super industrial and super not work with the nature that you have all around. So yeah, I mean, working with yachts, sometimes you get the opportunity to work with a direct client, which means the direct owner. But a lot of the times you also end up working on a speculative project. Now, what a speculative project is that you are not really having an end buyer. So you don't really know who the client is going to be. But you are designing for a shipyard or for like a company that owns yachts or builds yachts with a brand.
Yeah.
When you're designing on a speculative project and you don't know who your end client is, you have to go back to the basics. You have to go back to your books. You have to do endless research and benchmarking in order to be able to curate and design a yacht for an XYZ client. So you don't know if this client is really what is the taste of this client? Yeah.
Right.
They're just going to come looking in for their house on the water, and then they're going to be like, oh, I like this taste or I don't. So that becomes really interesting because then you have to really use your brain cells and really create a design that is going to cater to not just one type of client or not just one type of buyer, but like an array of different interests,
Kind of people.
which is
Yeah.
very interesting. Then you really have to be like, okay, this has to be something that if someone who's a lot into black, like very masculine energy, and someone who really loves masculine interior design, but if I'm designing something that's more feminine, even that guy or that girl should be able to enjoy it. So it's super tricky, but it's super fun. And the harmony there becomes very subjective. But it at the end of the day, it all becomes harmonizing one space, and using the products that you're using in that environment have to balance each other out. It can't be like super.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in software product development, we have a similar concept where, of course, most of the products that like SaaS products that are there in the market, you're imagining that it is meant for a customer, and you do a client profiling. Like it's completely speculative. Like they probably like this, they probably watch this, they're used to these apps, or they're not, and then based on that, you try to work out your functions and how the user experience flow will be like. So I think it's very
Absolutely. That's fun. That's fun.
right.
It gives you like a plethora of choices. You have a plethora of choices, and then
Yeah.
you just have to like cut down and then just create the most beautiful and striking masterpiece that you know that anybody walks in, they're gonna love it. And that to achieve that is just the whole process, but it's worth it.
How long does it usually take to do this?
Well, when it comes to me designing a space, I think it's like a layer of, you go through layers.
Okay.
Typically, designing a yacht can take from conception to the built product. It can take up to years
Okay.
because there's a lot of back and forth with the client, but not just with the client. Also, you have to have constant communication with the naval architect, who in this case would be a civil engineer to an architect. Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel it can take up to a few years. But then sometimes also when you have the hull already ready and you just have to like refurbish a yacht or something like that, it can take a few months. So it's really subjective.
Okay. Okay. But that also means that, if the hull and stuff is ready, you have lesser amount of freedom to work with.
Yeah, that's true.
So then things
Sometimes you can make some adjustments to the hull as well, but bearing in mind that your naval architect permits. But our attempt is always to make sure that they agree.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. What are some of the craziest requests that you've heard from high net worth individuals in incorporating in your design?
Well, going back to Tanzania, I was working with super high network individuals, not pertaining to yachting, but residential houses.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be a very unrealistic approach where they want everything. They have everything and they want more.
Right.
But it's interesting actually to navigate through that and then bring a perspective, because sometimes when you have everything, you really don't know what more. And then to add value to that is like the most beautiful process, because that really engages you with the client and you really want to know more and you want to do more for the client. I think more than anything, it can be frustrating, but then at the end of it, it's super rewarding.
I'm curious. So, what are the things in design that brings out luxury or the feeling of luxury in a space?
What brings out the feeling of luxury? If you asked me this like a few years back, I would have said something very different. But at the point in life I am in right now, I can say simplicity. Simplicity can really speak volumes. The less you do is more. And that is actually, in fact, true. Luxury at the end of the day is having your needs sorted. If your needs are there, you're done. You're good.
Yeah.
This is no longer a luxury. Wants is just bratish behavior. Really, luxury is being minimal. Luxury is being content with what you have. When it comes to a space, it's designing. I keep using the word harmonious, but it is. Everything in this world is a harmony. We're
Okay.
working on harmony here. So everything has to be harmonious. It has to be harmonious within you as well. when you're designing a space, you have to make sure that everything is in a good balance. Like everything works. Everything works with the best balance. You could be a maximalist as well. I'm not saying go minimal that way. Like be a maximalist. Use like super like eccentric pieces as well. If that's your calling, go for it. Absolutely. But don't overclutter. Overcluttering and having it all doesn't make sense. Like if you have a small space and you think that putting a bar and a dining table and a sofa in like a 10 square meter space is meaning luxury, it's absolutely not. Because if you enter the space and you feel like absolutely cluttered up to your throat, then that's not luxury. That's living a very mediocre life.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you have the same 10 square meter space and you beautifully design a very minimal dining table that seats the needed, and have a nice sofa that seats the needed, and have a nice kitchen and maybe an open air kitchen, like an open kitchen that you're able to use for the needs that you have, that for me is luxury, because you enter into a space feeling like, wow, like I've entered into like a calm space, like something that is so serene, other than like just having everything cluttered in one space and being like, nah, okay, whatever. Have it all, but then it's not it.
Love, love. No, in fact, one of the things when just now when you were saying was that made me think was everything is in harmony or everything happens harmoniously. So, I get a feeling, Disha, that you're very, very big on energies.
Yeah, I really am.
So tell me
I think
about
our first segment was all about energy and architecture.
right. So to tell me more about what made you become this person who not just believes so much in energies but also infuses it in her work and in the spaces that you create, and is today defining luxury as well from the point of energy. Yeah, so what made you this? What was the story?
I think it goes back to when I was a child. I've always been around people, meaning my family, with some of the highest values that I've grown up with. In every single person I encounter, I try to imbibe something from them. Something my mom always taught me: never take the negative from a person, always take the positive, because we're all human at the end of the day. And we all always have something good and something bad to offer. But if we start taking all the negatives, then what do we have to live for?
Yeah.
Always look for the best in people, because there will always be something good someone has to say to you and something good someone has to offer to you. And at the end of the day, it's how and what you want to be. Like, of course, I've grown up in necessarily always felt like people were nice, and how that made me feel at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Experiences are all you take with you.
Yeah.
And experiences are all what you're left with, and what you want to feel at the end of the day is energy, right? It's the energy that you give out. So growing up, when I've had a few experiences that didn't necessarily make me feel very good, it kind of brought in a feeling of not ever wanting to make anybody else feel that way ever. Feel like as we are progressing with time and technology, people are kind of becoming a little bit more inhuman with each passing day. And I feel like, just for example, like people don't compliment anyone anymore. Like it's become more of I feel it's become more of a flaw. That if somebody is complimenting someone, it is seen more of like, oh my God, what does she want from me? Or what does he want from me? That's really sad. That's really sad that we can't freely compliment someone for some achievement they've done, or like something good in their life.
Yeah.
And that all comes from an experience that maybe that person has had. So what really made me feel so completely encapsulated by energy is certain experiences when I was a kid, and not wanting to feel that anymore. But then at the end of the day, you really cannot expect people to be a certain way with you.
Yeah.
It's the way you are with yourself.
Yeah.
So it really took a lot of understanding of myself to know that at the end of the day, you have to harmonize with your own energy first. Like, sort your energy.
Yeah.
Because energy is contagious. Like, I could be like a super happy person and then come and meet you. And let's say the person that I'm meeting is very depressed and very sad. If I haven't sorted my equilibrium within, I don't know where I want to be.
Yeah.
So when I'm in a space with somebody with a draining energy, automatically I drain myself too. You can either do that, or if you are so sure of who you are as a person and your energy and what you want to give out in this world, you have the power to change that draining energy of the person and make that person rise to your level or maybe even more, you know? So at the end of the day, I just feel like if you can make someone happy at the end of a day, or if you can like compliment someone and just give a sense of optimism, or like just have a vibrant energy that's dynamic or that's like super happy. You don't have to be like giggly and happy all the time. That's really stupid. But like just put out like the best of who you are in the world with zero arrogance, your foot on the ground, and I think that's what my aim in life is. Like I always want to be able to make someone feel good. I never want to make anyone feel bad. What is the point of it anyway?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, beautiful. In fact, this brings me back to a lot of my journey as well. When it comes to energies, one is of course that, as you rightly said, that when you meet someone who is not of the right energy, or not of the right, is not right or wrong, is of a lower energy, then you, there is a very high chance that you're going to imbibe it and bring your energy down. But then again, I also know that with practice, and this could be any kind of practice, it could be your inner work that you're doing, or meditation or chanting or whatever suits you, that with that you are also able to either influence that person, which is the next level, or at least protect yourself from those energies. So I think that's an inner journey that people should take. I think everyone should take and work on that inner self. Yeah.
And I think we should not take life too seriously.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I have had to really teach myself, because for the longest time I used to take myself and life too seriously. And then I realized that why? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not saying like make foolish mistakes. Okay, make foolish mistakes, it's fine. But then just live. Just live.
Yeah.
Once you start living life, you will realize how the petties don't magically is going there'll be a shift in, let's say, energy.
Yeah.
We've used this word too much.
No, it's good. I like, this is the most energy filled podcast been on. No, I think very true. Yeah, just shift yourself through different ways. Actually, yeah, and not to take things seriously. I think that's been a journey for me as well. In fact, my shift actually happened after I came to Singapore.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when I came to Singapore, everybody in my school and class was like, I don't care about anything. And here I was like, hey, Marks, what? No?
Yeah.
Hey, being a prefect, come on, what? Nobody
Yeah,
cared.
you were like a scholar student when we were studying together.
Yeah, and you should talk to my friends in JIS. She was like, yeah, she was smart, but then but whatever, it doesn't matter because nobody.
It doesn't matter. Like, what are your grades gonna get you? Nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing. Let me tell you one thing.
Yeah.
Like when I when I passed my 12th, I was never like a brilliant scholar student. I had the most average marks. Okay. And then just thinking back now, because some of my mom's friends or like cousins, they are going through that phase right now.
Yeah.
Very recently. And I just thought to myself that I just reminded myself of the time when marks meant everything.
Yeah.
Cut to now, it meant nothing. To
Yes.
be honest, Priya, like I passed out with average marks, okay?
Yeah.
And then I wanted to do architecture. And let's say a certain university is considered to be like the best university. And if you get into that, then you are going to get placed like that. And I did not get into that because I didn't even apply because because I didn't have the marks. Yeah. So I applied in another university, which is amazing, but not considered like the top university. And then I had so many relatives and so many people come up to me and say that, oh, because you didn't graduate from a so-and-so university, I mean, it cuts down a lot of your chances. I mean, it does not. Nobody asked me. Nobody asked me what were your grades.
Yeah.
To be honest, even in masters, nobody asked me if I graduated with honors or not. Nobody cares.
Nobody
It's what
cares.
you are putting out there at work day after day. It's what you are doing. At the end of the day, my boss then asked me in Italy that how much did you get when you were in 12th or like your masters, how much did you score?
Yeah.
It's your professionalism that takes you places. It's how much your output at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And you learn when you're in the job.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just feel like in India, and my only experience with India has been Bombay, but I felt that things were very competitive, which I completely didn't feel after I came here. But in Singapore, local
Really? In
schools,
Singapore?
yeah. So I
Singapore?
didn't go to a local school in Singapore. So if
Okay.
I so in the local school in Singapore, it is very cutthroat, very competitive. But here I was in an international school where people were still figuring out what to do in life. Like not even life, like what to just play tomorrow and eat tomorrow or eat today. What do we do with the free period next, you know? So this is what people's life was about. And then of course there is a test coming in 3 days, and we're like, okay, we'll work on it, no problem. And you know, another thing was the environment was such that the teachers never really cared so much about marks. And I think that was very, very important because you could scream out the marks to the entire class and tell the entire class about what ranks you are and where you are, which completely messes up. Or you could just be like, here, this is your marks, this is your marks, this is your marks, this is your marks. Come and talk to me if you have doubts, right? That's it. Both kind of teaching. So I experienced both. So the first part was where, you know, your ranks are being spoken about. The topmost people are being given like, I don't know, like hotel level treatment, whatever shit. Right. And then the other, like when I came to Singapore, like it was just like, okay, so these marks, here, take it. If you have doubts, you come and ask me. And that's about it. Nobody, only if students wanted to share, which we did eventually, right? Like share what your scores were. And the thing is that people were scoring well. It's not like there was someone who was like at 10 or 5 or 1 out of a 40-mark paper. There were people who were roughly between 35 to 40. Everyone was roughly there, so it didn't even matter like what your score was and what your rank was. So I think that as a child, it lifted so much of pressure out of me, and marks stopped mattering, and it yeah.
Doesn't matter. What really matters at the end of the day is who you are as a person
Yeah,
and what you can give to the world. In
correct.
whatever field that you are in. You could be an engineer, you could be a pilot, you could be a doctor, you could
Yeah,
be whoever. At
correct.
the end of the day, it's who you are as a person and what you are giving out to the society.
Yeah, and while you do that, I think it's important to just add on here is working on your own self-concept and self-love, which is very important. You can't, give out of an empty cup. You should never give out of an empty cup. You should always seek to fill that in first and do whatever, you need to do to fill that in. I think that's been my bigger learning. And then the world reflects in different ways.
Absolutely. It's we're living in a box of mirror.
Yeah. Ooh, I
What you
love the way you say that.
Absolutely. It's always been that way. If you actually go back and think, at some point you've always gotten back what you've given. Not immediately, but at some point, for sure. And it will continue that way because that's just how the universe works.
Nice, love it. Well, fantastic. I think lots of the different things we touched upon, Disha, and particularly one thing that will stay with me after this podcast is luxury means you don't need anything. And so that's why, luxurious designs should be simple. I'm just paraphrasing, but you said something like that, and I will quote.
No, you definitely need something.
No, no, no. Luxury means that all that you need is taken care of, right? Yeah, all your needs.
Wants are extra. Needs are what you need to tap into the first. And if you have your needs taken care of, you're living a luxurious life because a lot of
Yes.
people are not getting that
Yes.
even.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. What is next for you, Disha?
So I just recently launched a platform called Design Latitude. It's all in the name. It's basically a platform that encourages strategic thinking, aesthetical spaces, and like a one-stop for design.
Okay.
Something that's innovative, something that is emerging and with lots of possibilities. Latitude, in the name of Design Latitude, is touching upon a global experience. Basically, taking on design with a global experience. When it comes to culture, when it comes to experiences, when it comes to aesthetics, because it's all about interior design
Right.
for now. But I'm open and I'm hoping that it evolves into something a lot bigger.
Yeah.
taps into my vision board. Design has taken me across continents, so I'm just waiting to see where it takes me next.
Beautiful. Are you going to always be in Italy or do you see yourself traveling?
Well, that's a really good question. Given that I'm married to an Italian, one would think that I would probably settle in here. But my partner, my husband, he is a very international person as well. I learned so much from him. He has the most amazing entrepreneurial mindset, and the world is full of possibilities. So I will not put a cap on the bottle yet.
Yeah.
We're still exploring, we're still talking, and we're really excited to see what comes next.
Nice.
So yeah, maybe
Nice.
we'll be in Singapore. I don't know.
Sure.
Waiting on that.
Please come here, and I'm sure you will feel like a genie in a bottle. Shit, I need to cut that out.
Yeah, well, let's see. I mean, there's so many possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, great tourism place, You should definitely come here. Thank you so much, Disha. I think this has been a fabulous podcast, especially for people who are looking to understand designing interior spaces, and a little bit about cultural differences and cultural similarities around the world. Fantastic. Any last words that you have for our listeners at the Out of Office show?
Just say this to young students out there who are potentially looking at this right now, or just young workers, that professionalism is something that is key to success. And in a day and age like today, we see a lot of cases where people are forgetting the sense of professionalism. While I say that, I also want to emphasize that whatever it is that you have started working on, whatever your passions were that led you to do design, architecture, civil engineering, aviation, medical, whatever it is, do not forget where it all started. Because we often tend to forget the inspiration behind creating and just the pure joy of creating for the output. Don't be so focused on the output.
Yeah.
Go back and remember the joy of creating and
Yes.
just the joy of being.
Yes.
So always remember that, kids.
Fantastic. No, I love it because very true. Don't focus on the outcome. Outcomes are outcomes. They are a result of something. So just focus on what.
Work for the outcome. Work
Yeah.
for the outcome. Put
Yeah.
in everything you have. Put in all your being into what you want to create, but
Yeah.
don't focus on the outcome.
Yeah. And don't chase
Focus
it.
on the process.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Disha, for joining us on the Out of Office show.
So happy to speak with you. I had a blast. It was so much fun. And I just don't want this podcast to stop. I think we should keep doing this.
We should have
Like
a second
off record, but we should keep doing this.
Yeah, right? Well, we'll do a second version. Maybe you're in a different country then. I don't know. But thank you so much for coming to the show. And for the listeners out there, keep watching the Out of Office show. That's the second time I've done that. All right. See you.
Bye.
That is awesome, Disha. Okay. So, yeah, you just spoke about how we knew each other as chuddy buddies. And the first thing that came to my mind was Raheja. And
Oh my God, Raheja, and even Panchvati, bro. Panchvati was
oh my God,
where it all started.
what all started? Really?
I mean, Panchvati. You were staying in Panchvati, and then my dad ended up buying two houses right below you. And then we started, and we knew each other, but then I did not even know you stayed in Panchvati. And then we just met in the elevator, and I was like, oh my God, she's in my school. And then I think,
Yeah. Oh my
no,
God.
but you know what? I think I've told this to you, and I told this to you very late in life.
Yeah.
As to why I became friends with you is because when I just joined in the 6th grade and during lunch classes, like, of course, I didn't have any friends at the time because I was just so new. And then I used to see you eating Maggie every day. Like, you had Maggie in your lunchbox every day. And for me, that was like, girl, she has to be my friend because I wanted to eat your Maggie. And that's how I think this friendship started, like, in my head.
I mean,
Anyway.
I love this. So Maggie brought us together. To not like doing that. I wouldn't eat anything else.